Hello and welcome to Yes, You Are Brave. This is a podcast where we're going to set off on a journey together to find and build our brave, where we explore all the ways that you have been brave and all the ways that you can be brave again. Because even though we may have forgotten or we may have fallen out of practice, we're all brave. And I'm on a mission to prove it and help you believe that yes, you are brave. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Yes, You Are Brave. So today is going to be a little bit different, and apparently this is going to turn into a tradition that I had not anticipated. But today we need to talk a little bit about, I feel like I need to talk a little bit about being brave enough to still acknowledge the loss and the hurt, even though we're moving forward with our lives. So this episode is being recorded on my dad's birthday, and it's a day that this is the fourth one without him, and it's always been a bit tender, and it's been, this year is no different. It's a tender day. It's a day when you see it and you kind of like, oh, okay, that's this day. But it's interesting because, as I talked about a couple episodes ago, that I feel like I've really turned a page in the whole grieving and in this whole process, my grief journey or whatever it is, into feeling like I'm making my way back to being a human being again, being a person that I feel like I can actually do things and I can actually be productive and all those things. And there's been some huge steps. But I think it's important also to acknowledge the fact that just because you make progress and you get to move forward and things are going well, doesn't take away all the things that have happened, doesn't take away the fact that it's my daddy's birthday and he's not here. That he's still the person that when I am struggling, I want to talk to the most, and the one that I feel like would be able to help me feel the most confident. Just because I am getting better at living without him doesn't mean that it's not hard to still have to live without him. Because this is the rest of my life. So many things, so many experiences that now I have to have on my own. I don't mean this to be a woe is me thing. I really don't, because I feel like I have made some awesome progress, and I feel like I've been able to step out of that really, really deep grief, and even the not quite as deep grief. And I love the direction that I feel like I'm headed. But then you have a day like today that is just still really tender. You know, it's like that scar that you've had for a long time, and you just randomly hit it on a table and it just still hurts like crazy. But I think that part of being brave, we've talked a lot about brave being small as well as big. And I think for me, being brave is acknowledging that there's still a hurt and not pretending that everything's okay. Because for a lot of my life, I was one of those people that just pretended things was okay. I just pretended things were okay, and I pretended that like it was fine. I had this idea that if I just said I was fine enough, that it would make it so. It's not how it works, right? Insisting it's one way doesn't make it so. But I think we can only really deal with our problems and deal with our struggles when we acknowledge that they're there. And just because we have made huge progress on something doesn't mean that it's not still hard. just because I have figured out a way to move forward and to keep going and to not stay stuck in that deep hole, to not choose to give in to that very real temptation to just curl up in a ball and do nothing else for ever, does not mean that it is not still hard. It doesn't mean that there aren't still days when it hits really hard. I had some things to do this morning. I was kind of running errands and stuff, and I was driving home. I was actually really relieved that what I thought was going to be an all-day thing was just a few minutes, and then I was on my way home, and I looked over at the clock, and the clock was the date of his birthday. And it was just one of those, oh, yeah, that's today. And my sister earlier had said something about what today is and how she had realized what it was, and pause for her to realize what it was. And oh man, it is a day. Because here's the thing about loss. No matter how much time goes by, it's still there. No matter how many years or how much progress or what different part of your life you are now in, that loss is still a part of you. I still wake up every morning in a world that my dad is no longer physically here. And it's still hard. Am I learning to live with it? Yes, I am learning to live with it. I am learning to live with it. I am learning to function without him, but it's still there. And I know that so many people are dealing with losses, and I think that there's this idea in our world that, it should last a certain amount of time and then you should be over it. And that is honestly, I would say, the biggest bunch of bull crap in the whole world. There's no timeline on it. There's no timeline on anything. Healing takes as long as it takes. And when all is said and done, even when you have quote unquote healed and found your way into a better space, there's still a hole in your heart. There's still a hole in your life. And that doesn't ever go away. It may scar over, and you may get used to it. You may get used to walking around that hole, and you may not fall into it like you used to all the time. But it's still there, and it's still a part of you. And so I know this is a little bit of a more of a subdued episode, but I just wanted to acknowledge that your loss is still valid, and how you feel about it is still valid. And if you need to sit down in the middle of the floor with your dog and cry 3, 4, 5, 10 years later, it's okay to sit down in the middle of the floor and cry. It's okay to have days that just hurt. Days when it feels like it has been. There's no time that's passed. When that pain feels as fresh as a week later or 2 weeks later. But I would challenge you to be brave enough to acknowledge the hurt that's still there, and to maybe every once in a while sit with it so that you can process it as it still continues to come up. Because it will continue to come up no matter what you do. That loss, especially losses that are permanent, like death of loved ones, it's going to be with you for the rest of your life. And so at some point, you have got to learn to make some sort of peace with it. In that it's okay to acknowledge when it comes, when it knocks softly and says, I need a few minutes of your time. And maybe we need to shed a few tears and process this a little bit more. Because today is whatever the significance of the day is. Be brave enough, my friends, to acknowledge that when it comes. To acknowledge the hurt, to sit with it, to feel it, to let that day be important, and to not let some arbitrary decision by some random person decide how and when you should be over the death of a loved one. Because clearly they have no idea what it actually means, and that you don't ever get over it, you just simply learn to live with it. I wish I could take it away. I wish you didn't have to have these losses that rip you open. But I don't have that power. All I can do is offer you some advice, some hard-won wisdom, and hope that it helps you. And today, that is in these significant, important days. Take some time. Cry with your dog or your cat or your pigeon or whatever it is. And let that day still be important, because that person is still important. No matter how long they've been gone, they're still important and they are still a part of you and they still deserve to be acknowledged. So that's what I have for you this week. Know that you are loved and you are cared about, and you are amazing and you are wonderful, and you are not alone in your feelings of loss and struggle. You're not. If you need support, please reach out. Find somebody who can help you heal. Be brave enough to acknowledge the hurt. And remember that loss is going to shape you, but it really doesn't have to define you. It doesn't. Only you get to decide that. But I do also have to say, happy birthday, Dad. Thank you for shaping me. Have a fantastic day.
Thanks for listening, and if you enjoyed what you've heard today, please leave a review down below and share this with anyone that you feel like could use a little more brave in their life. And if you'd like to follow more of my journey to be brave, you can follow me on social media and link down below. Have a fantastic day, and don't forget to be brave.